Hello everyone, welcome to this short webinar that we're really excited to share with you today. It's the first Facebook webinar that we've done as a group, and the really exciting part about this is we're able to now communicate with all of our Facebook friends a question that we've been getting a lot of emails and phone calls with the doctors we communicate with. How are you guys getting all these really sick patients well in the clinics that you train and in your own virtual practice? And we're really excited about sharing three of several of these with you today with Dr. Pompa here. And let me just introduce you to Dr. Pompa. Dr. Pompa is the doctor that got me well. I had all these unexplainable illnesses and conditions, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, weight gain. I actually lost 50 pounds eating Dr. Pompa's cellular healing diet, which probably many of you know about. And then the thing about Dr. Pompa, what I like about him most is his YouTube videos. This guy has the best YouTube videos and information on the planet, I believe, on drpompa.com under conditions, and also just search him out on YouTube. And what happened with that transition to me getting sick, I started working for Dr. Pompa in his second $1 million practice. And what we were able to do is marketing weight loss and condition-specific marketing. We grew this massive clinic, and now we're virtual, and we're training doctors full-time. I went from being able to work 10 hours a day for him to working 80 hours a week, and now about 5 years ago we launched our Health Centers of the Future coaching seminar. So healthcare practitioner, chiropractor, naturopath, welcome to the start of something real. Why are we saying something real? Well, it's because what we're going to share with you on this short webinar are real answers that can get to the heart issue of why a lot of chiropractors, in particular what the research is showing, why they're struggling so much in their practice. It isn't their marketing as much as it is that they're incongruent with the message that they're sharing and be able to get those results. Because when you don't get results, you start trusting your patient for your answers, and now they're dictating their care. You don't want to get up in the morning because there's no results. You're not getting those results. You don't get fed by those results and seeing patients walk out of your office healthy. We're going to get into this in this short webinar. But before we get started, you transformed my life. And you have a story, and not everyone on this webinar has heard your story. How did you get here today? How did you get to these answers that are getting so many sick patients well?
Yeah, the one thing I always like to say is, look, my authority doesn't come from my years of schooling. Or even my like or ability to read literature and regurgitate it in a lecture, but it comes through my own battle and the victory that I believe God gave me over my own illness. And I really developed it, as well as you, debilitating symptoms of chronic fatigue, insomnia, panic attacks. Really bizarre symptoms. My digestion went first, then I had brain fog, couldn't remember anymore, couldn't sleep at night. Sound sensitive, twitching. I could go on and on, but the point
it's horrible.
It is. It ruined my life. I wasn't able to practice anymore. Thank God I had a partner at the time that really took up the slack. And to be honest with you, Warren, and you know this, we spent, my wife and I, about $150,000 to $180,000 literally trying to get well. The bottom line is this: it pulled me into some answers that I never had before. Like so many chiropractors, and Warren, you brought it up. There's an incongruency with the message that you're preaching and that I believe strongly in and my results.
That was you.
Yeah, and it frustrated me in practice. It was one of those things that kept me from wanting to get out of bed in the morning, and it frustrated me in practice. And you know what? And you start to look for the next thing. You start to look for the next gadget. You go from a pain practice, you go from this package, practice. You start looking at all these things to try to get better results. And I have to believe, what God showed me through my illness is the missing link of why people aren't getting well today, and why for the last 20 years, and I'm a chiropractor, so I'll speak to the chiropractors. In the old days, you used to be able to adjust people, and just an adjustment alone, and literally get 90% of the people well. It's different today.
It is.
And what I learned through my own battle and your battle is that there is a different interference today. Not that the adjustment's any different, because it's not. It's powerful, and it works. However, that is called subluxation, meaning something interfering with the body's nerve system and innate intelligence. Today, chemical interference is possibly, I believe, a bigger player even than the physical. But you put the two together, we have something here.
So Dr. Pompa, the really interesting thing is in that study, it wasn't necessarily the economy or insurance that was making these practices fail. It was the fact that they were just no longer interested in doing their practice. They weren't, and that comes down to that core issue where they're incongruent with the message and they're not getting the results, and then that has this effect, we believe, on how they're able to build and grow their practice.
Yeah, one of the things, a lot of chiropractors, when they go to practice building, they teach them that you have to have an authority. This authority has to just resonate from you, but how can you have that authority when you know in your heart of hearts you're not delivering the results? Because see, we all believe, I mean, whether you're a chiropractor, an ND, and even an MD, our message is real to us. I mean, it resonates. I mean, especially a message that we're saying, hey, look, there is an innate intelligence in your body, and all we have to do is remove the interference, and the body does the healing. Man, we all believe that. I mean, I know we all believe that. You believe it, I believe it.
We do.
However, when you don't see the results, or you see such far and few, between of these miracle cases, it wears you down. It did me in my practice. And that is really the biggest problem. So look, the bottom line is this. We will spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to do more marketing and trying to do slick marketing and more gimmicks in our practice. And but the bottom line is this. You can build a waiting list practice where literally the people are going to be lining up at your doors if you have the real answers. If you have the real answer that addresses the fastest epidemic growing on this planet right now. And that epidemic is why I lost my life, and it's why you lost your life. The one thing we talk about is it's inflammation. I mean, again, not our opinion. It's all over the literature.
Right.
We're talking about specific inflammation, cellular inflammation. Look, we talk about detox. True detoxification has to occur at the cell. You have to fix cellular inflammation. People are doing colon cleanses, liver cleanses, this cleanse, that cleanse. The key to really getting sick people well, you have to fix the cell. You have to address this inflammation problem in the cell. One of the things that I teach at my seminars is my 5 R's of how you fix the cell, and therefore you're going to fix the person. But look, the point I think I really want to make here is this. If you do have these answers, and guys, I'm not saying that we have all the answers, but I know that we have answers that most people do not have. And that's why we're getting these really sick patients well. But if you have these answers, you're going to have a waiting list practice. People are going to be lining up. Guys, the epidemic of sick patients with unexplainable illness, it's not getting smaller, it's getting bigger.
Dr. Pompa, you're so right on with that. I mean, I talk to more chiropractors, naturopaths, medical doctors, probably anyone else I know. And it's even more crazy is not only that their patients, they can't get well, and why they have this internal conflict, they themselves are sick. They're like, hey, I'm sick, and I'm trying to tell this person how to get well. I'm 50 pounds overweight, or I have chronic fatigue fibromyalgia. That's because no one's getting to these real answers.
It causes another inconsistency, even in their own family, and that wears them down, man.
It burns them out. And then the other thing that I find, because I love marketing, even though if you create this sort of practice after a few years, it becomes its own residual momentum and monster. And that's what we're trying to give you today, guys, today, is trying to give you some information that creates momentum in your practice, gets it back into your life. And I'm all about that. I'm all about creating residual income, showing doctors how to create million-dollar practices. But if you can't get yourself well and you can't get your patients well, then what are you marketing for? There's all these programs, HCG, some special scanner, and it dictates their protocol and supplements. Man, if you don't get to the cause, you're not going to get patients well. Dr. Pompa, let's go into these 3 things on methylation, which helped me remove my chemical sensitivity. I was extremely chemical sensitive, couldn't even walk out of the house. Got me well.
Yeah.
Genomics, with not understanding genomics and genetics and the switching of turning genes on and off. And then the last subject is we're going to get into the guy that defined this new paradigm in medicine, Dr. Martin Pall. So let's launch into methylation in this short webinar.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I can't go through everything, I mean, I just chose 3 things that really address this epidemic that we're referring to, and really brand new research. I mean, the stuff that I'm hitting here, it's new research. And again, I do want to reiterate, I really feel in my heart that if you don't understand these things that I'm going to talk about here, you're not going to get people well. And then you do have that inconsistency because you're not getting the results. So it affects your health, it affects your patient's health, and it affects, obviously, the financial aspect even of your practice. So here we go. I mean, methylation, some of you probably know what that is. Most of you maybe don't. But methylation, it really happens in every cell in your body. It's a carbon and 3 hydrogens. That's called a methyl group. You need these methyl groups to do so many different functions in your body. Matter of fact, methyl groups actually turn genes on, good genes, and it turns bad genes off. So it really can turn on messages and turn off messages. Methylation also protects your DNA. It keeps you from aging prematurely. Methylation also gets rid of toxins. So you need these methyl groups to actually attach to toxins and remove them from your cell. So again, true detoxification happens at the cellular level. And actually another thing, a toxin that you may not be thinking about, is you need methylation of these methyl groups to actually get rid of toxic estrogen and toxic hormones, which obviously leads to cancer and other hormone dysregulation or hormone problems. Big problem today. 95% of women or in a state of hormone dysregulation, methylation plays a major, major role in that. Now, here's the other thing that you have to understand is that stress adaptation is really one of the major things that methylation does. For example, to adapt to stress, your body has to take a methyl group and activate certain stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This is key. Your body needs methylation groups or methyl groups to actually deactivate those stress groups. So you can see the disorders that I have up here. There's a growing epidemic of methyl depletion. So it really is linked to a lot of these conditions. Chronic fatigue, sleep disorders, the inability to adapt to stress. Because remember, you need methyl groups to adapt to stress. Toxic encephalitis, which simply means autism, a lot of these unexplainable disorders, inflammation of the brain, genetic disorders, cancer, and one you might not think of, weight loss resistance, which I'll explain after I talk about methylation. Next slide.
And one thing I wanted to bring in there is at our last seminar in Chicago, we actually brought in the guy who has the patented principle on methylation, yes. Dr. Alan Vaninsky. So we bring in these experts that just focus on these specific things.
Yeah, matter of fact, Dr. Vaninsky is really the patent owner of something called the methylation priority principle, which I'm going to teach you actually tonight. It really will change your practice and how you think of getting these patients well. But here's some of the things that, just to say, well, why are we in a state? Why are so many people really methyl depleted today? And by the way, people who are methyl depleted, there are also these allergy patients that become food intolerant, that become allergic to their environments, even just outside allergies. So we see this as an epidemic. Genetically, some people just make less methyl groups and they get depleted much easier. Diet, overconsumption of sugar, even just not being able to absorb B12 or folate can cause a depletion. But here's the big one, toxins and stress. Toxins and stress, over toxicity. Man, it is an epidemic causing the epidemic of unexplainable illnesses. So you need methyl groups to deal with toxins. It depletes you. Stress, the amount of stress we're under. Now listen, really important point, doctors. Your body doesn't know the difference between chemical stress, emotional stress, or physical stress. All of them can deplete you in methyl groups. Now here's the point that we were making, and this is Dr. Alan Vaninsky there that you see at the bottom. The methylation priority principle really simply is this. Your body prioritizes the use of methyl groups for stress and stress adaptation. What I'm saying is this. You see that healing and repair, maintenance of body function, energy storage, I said getting rid of toxic hormones, those things will end up not getting the methyl group or the use of the methyl group because stress is the number one thing that you need first, meaning that you need the methyl group to adapt to stress first. So if you're stressed out and you're toxic, you're going to deplete yourself of methyl groups. Now your DNA is not getting turned on or off correctly. Now your DNA is not getting protected, so you're aging prematurely. Now toxic hormones are building up in the body, and now you end up starting to get a disease because you're depleting your methyl groups because of stress. I'm going to use hormones as my example here because I see this so much in my practice, and I saw it in my own wife actually. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you her own test. Look, in phase 2 estrogen metabolism, what that means is that your body has to get rid of toxic estrogen, and it does it really in 2 phases. Phase 2, I'm not going to discuss phase 1, I do that at the seminar, but phase 2, your body has to take one of these methyl groups and attach it to the toxic estrogen and get rid of it. But look at the next line here. It says, an increase in toxicity or stress can deplete the body of methyl groups and cause a buildup of the toxic estrogen. This leads to cancer and other unwanted symptoms. Guys, this is a massive epidemic, and I saw it in my own wife. My own wife ate a diet of organic, a diet better than most people that I know. However, she had major, major hormone problems despite getting adjusted, despite eating an organic diet, a whole food diet, and her hormone problems just were not going away. Well, not to teach you this whole entire test. By the way, this is a piece of a test that Suzanne Summers has made very popular. She says this is the test that saved her life. And matter of fact, my next seminar is in Las Vegas, and I'm teaching. And one of the things I'm teaching is this test. You can see there that phase 2, if you look at the top right hand, it says estrogen metabolism. The first one is the phase 1. The second one, it says methylation activity. My wife was in the red zone on both phase 1 and phase 2. You know what that means simply? my wife was going to get cancer just like her mom. And because of her lack of methylation, this was absolutely going to lead to, it already led to hormone problems, but it was going to lead to cancer. Very, very predictable. Guys, this is a major epidemic. This test, I believe, should be run on most women today. But anyways, the point I want to make is that my wife's toxicity, by the way, she had extremely high lead levels that she got from her mom, depleted her in methyl groups, and therefore has now what led to hormone problems and possibly cancer in the future. Methylation's effect on aging, and again, I could do a whole seminar on this, so I don't want to give too much here, but I want you to understand this. Down in the right-hand corner, you see actually a picture of some DNA there and a chromosome. The red ends, that's kind of like the shoelace that is on the end of the chromosome. That's called a telomere. The shorter that shoelace or that red zone gets, actually, the sooner you die. Just as an interesting point, upon conception, you actually have 15,000 bases of this telomere, meaning the length is about 15,000 bases. If you look at that whole chromosome, you have 100,000 bases across. That red zone is about 15,000. You have that upon conception. By the time you're born, you're actually down to 10,000. You die at 5,000. So again, the shorter that gets, it's the only biological clock that we know of that controls aging. So the shorter that telomere gets, the closer to aging you become. Now, we can't stop that process. However, unfortunately, most people are actually dying and aging prematurely. Because again, once you're at 5,000, you're a goner. But the problem is so many things: toxicity, lifestyle. But guess what? One of the major things that we do to protect that is methylation. So if you become methyl depleted, again, stress, chemical stress, number one thing that depletes you. Now you don't have enough methyl groups to actually protect that telomere, and you're aging prematurely. I think this is great. I've been doing so much research here, and in my next seminar, I'm teaching a whole segment on this. This is right from Time Magazine. It says why your DNA is not your destiny. Now, guys, the cool thing is, in this article, they actually talked about methylation and how it actually turns these genes of susceptibility off. For example, I'll use my own self as the example. I don't know if you've seen a picture of me, but I'm not fat, I'm not obese. However, I have the highest priority of obesity genes. That means that if I triggered this gene like my mom did, I would absolutely become overweight or obese. I also have the highest priority of heart disease, high blood pressure gene, and my mother did as well. However, in 9th grade, I was trying out for the wrestling team. They weren't going to let me on because of my high blood pressure. That was in 9th grade. Today, I have normal blood pressure. So the point is I've turned that gene off. In the article, they talk about the things that we're going to talk about at the seminar that can turn these genes off. The good fats, 3, 6, and 9s. B vitamins I use as the example, but those are the methyl donors, and I use that just because my audience sometimes doesn't understand methyl donor. B vitamins is one methyl donor. Glutathione antioxidants can turn these bad genes off. But look down at the bottom right-hand corner. Look what can turn them on. Mercury, lead, phthalates, pesticides. We know that these things can trigger these genes of susceptibility. Michael J. Fox nailed it. On 2020 interview, he was asked, well, Michael, did genes play a role in you getting Parkinson's disease? And he said, look, everyone in my family has the gene for Parkinson's. However, I am the first to get Parkinson's. He said, the thing I've learned in 31 years of researching this disease is, look, your genetics is the gun pointing at your head. However, it's environmental toxins that actually pull the trigger. Nobody else in family had Parkinson's. His trigger got pulled. Guys, this is huge. If you do not understand the epigenome in how to turn these genes off in your practice, if you're not doing it, forcing high levels of methylation is something that we teach. Understanding that methylation priority principle in your practice is critical. But this applies to every disease that you're seeing. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why you're not able to get a lot of these conditions well is because you're not understanding how we force this epigenome off. Warren, you remember the video I showed at the last seminar?
The Gouda gene?
Yep, the agouti gene.
You got that one.
Yeah, I got the agouti gene. That's
Special
the obesity gene, exactly, yeah. But guys, it's
I'm looking at you right now. You're chunky.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to put my picture up, see. But anyways, but yeah, I do have the agouti gene. But anyways, in the video I showed, they actually studied rats. And they actually gave identical twin rats BPA. Well, they gave one group of identical twin rats. Remember, same genetics, identical DNA. So they gave one BPA, and it's a toxin from plastic, right? And what it did is it triggered the agouti gene. It triggered the gene. They became obese, and they became yellow hair instead of brown, and they became sick.
Changed it into code.
Yeah, it turned on that gene. Now the cool thing is they forced methylation into these rats, and what happened? They turned the gene off. The rats became thin again. And by the way, this is a big reason why people can't lose weight today, is because that gene does get triggered. So your genes don't make you sick, but turning them on or the inability to turn them off does. So anyways, with the forced methylation, they turned the gene off. Their hair became brown again, which is kind of like getting better skin, and they became thin. The other amazing thing, it happened in their offspring.
Oh, that was a really important point.
Yeah, because again, pregnant women, guess what? If you get introduced to things like BPA, pesticides, heavy metals, if you have silver fillings, leaching mercury, it can trigger your gene, and it triggers it in your child.
So it actually passes it on to the genome.
Exactly. So that's the key to turning these genomes off, or the epigenetic. This is critical, guys. Toxins are triggering these genomes, but there's things we can do about it. And again, just taking B vitamins or other methyl donors isn't the key. It's how we force the methylation. And we do it in conjunction with some of these other things, forcing intracellular glutathione, that we're able to turn these genes off. It's one of the keys of how we're getting very, very sick people well. And again, one of the keys. All right, so, I know that's a lot, and it's a concept that it's new to some of you. But again, this is leading research right now, guys. And the cool thing is, and again, the video showed it, that these rats became normal. The amazing thing was, Warren, if you remember, they actually still forced the methylation when they were being exposed to BPA, and it still turned off the gene, and the rats became well, and they became thin again, even despite the fact that they were still being exposed to BPA.
So that means I can go back and start cleaning up hazardous waste again, and how I got sick.
Yeah, I don't recommend that, actually, and I don't recommend you drinking out of plastic either, because it's loaded with BPA, or putting sealant on kids' teeth. Go to my toxictop10.com, the toxictop10.com, and I talk about the 10 leading toxins that are really, again, triggering a lot of these genes, and really having a reason why we're seeing so many bizarre diseases today that we can't get well. Epigenetics definitely plays a role. Well, here's a subject that I just kind of referred to, weight loss resistance. Obviously, I could teach a 4-hour lecture on this. Oh, I do that, actually. I teach a public lecture for 4 hours on weight loss resistance. The inability to lose weight today, despite diet, despite exercise, is really, it's an epidemic within the epidemic. Warren, we market this. We see it more and more.
Yeah, right now, if you have your cell phone on, turn it off. If you have your other browsers and you're not paying attention, pay attention to this one thing. If you want to grow your practice, use that term that Dr. Pompa said. Why you can't lose weight may not be your fault. That's right. If you listen at coffee shops, women are talking about their hormones. They know that they're dysregulated. And if you tell them it's not their fault, they want to hear what you have to say. If you want to say how I can get you healthy, they're not going to come into your practice. They want to know why they can't lose weight, why their skin's bad, and their energy. And other key topics we're going to be teaching on at the seminar are how to market thyroid conditions, diabetes, some of these condition-specific marketing. However, the difference between our seminars and other seminars is that we teach the doctors the real answers, like we're sharing right here today.
Yeah, it is real answers, guys. This is leading research. Whether you're a chiropractor on the phone, MD on the phone, and you read literature, you get what we're saying. Weight loss resistance, it is a cellular issue. And what I mean by that, the one thing that I always say is to understand weight loss in the 21st century, you have to understand hormones. And by the way, that's why it's not your fault, folks on the phone, perhaps, that have weight battles. It's not your fault. Number one, you've probably triggered the agouti gene. But number two, it is a hormone problem. But to understand hormones in the 21st century, you have to understand toxins' effect on hormones. Let me explain what I'm saying by hormones. There's many hormones that are involved in weight loss, but one of the ones that I like to teach on is leptin. And most of you on the phone, I think, have heard of this hormone, but let me tell you the leptin story. Leptin was discovered about 1994, and leptin is the hormone that tells your brain to burn fat for energy. So in other words, we have a pretty slick system in place. God knew what he was doing for sure. The more fat cells you produce, the more leptin you produce. And therefore, it signals to your brain, hey, burn this stuff for energy. Here, we need to burn this for energy. So it's a pretty good system as you look at the graph there. The more fat cells you produce, the more leptin, the more it signals your brain to burn the fat. So it keeps you thin. It works. Oh, by the way, it also tells you to stop eating, so it really works well. So when they discovered leptin in 1994, they thought, oh my gosh, we're just going to have to inject people with a bunch of leptin, obese people, overweight people, and, we'll make trillions of dollars. This is a great answer. Well, they actually started testing obese and overweight people for leptin, and guess what they found? They actually found that obese people, they didn't lack leptin. They actually had what? They actually had too much. Mm-hmm. They were in a state of leptin resistance, like a type 2 diabetic for the doctors on the phone. They have too much insulin. So the insulin's not the problem. It's the fact that their brain is not hearing it. At least the cells in the brain, the hypothalamus in particular, aren't hearing it. Guys, the one thing I always teach at my seminars is that, look, hormone problems are not problems with hormones. It's problems with the receptors to the hormones. I taught a little girl just a couple weeks ago. She was asking me, by the way, she has hypothyroid at age 12. Ugh. And she was doing a report and she interviewed me on this, and I got her to understand this. So she was like, so wait a minute, they're giving me more hormones, but really it's my cells' receptors aren't listening to the hormone. So she says, that doesn't make sense. She said, I should fix the receptor to the hormone. I said, exactly. My gosh, if I could just get everyone else to understand it like that 12-year-old girl understood it. But that's exactly the same with weight loss. The problem is that the receptors to the hormones, whether it's thyroid, whether it's leptin, or whatever, estrogen. Insulin. Yeah, insulin, exactly. The receptor has been blunted and cannot hear the hormone. And therefore, now the body isn't getting the right message, or the cell. Guys, here's the big battle. Is what happens is, so here it is. How do we actually fix these people? We get them to become fat burners. Or how do we get people to become fat burners? We fix their hormones. There's the leptin resistance. It actually occurs in the hypothalamus. So normal people should have a hypothalamus that looks like the top one there with all these good receptors. However, most Americans, even people that are 10, 20 pounds overweight, they're in some state of leptin resistance where they're blunted. Their receptors aren't picking up the signal. Guys, look, your cells can only use two things for energy, fat and sugar. Most Americans, they do not have the ability to utilize fat for energy. And guys, that's the hormone problem that I'm talking about. So they don't have the ability to use fat for energy, so they become sugar burners. They're only burning sugar. And here's why we say it's not your fault. Because the bottom line is that because your body can't use fat for energy, it gives you a craving that you cannot resist. Therefore, you fail on every diet. It's a hormone problem. You're set up for failure because your body's inability to use fat for energy, it gives you a craving for the bread, the sugar, or whatever it is. And you know what happens at night? When you're sleeping at night, your body can't give you the craving. So what does it do? It takes your muscle through a process of gluconeogenesis. It breaks it down into sugar. So now you're losing muscle, and your glucose levels are literally the highest in the morning, like most diabetics. And guess what? You're burning muscle, your metabolism's getting lower. Once again, it's not your fault. You're setting yourself up for failure. Guys, 1/3 of all leptin resistance is because of toxins. This is the major reasons. And again, I'm not talking about toxins outside. Our air arguably is cleaner today than ever. I'm talking about toxins right under your nose. Ladies, toxic beauty. On average, in your morning regimen, you use 518 chemicals. 216 are known to cause cancer. 95% of the chemicals you're putting on your skin and in your body every day cause hormone dysregulation, causing weight problems, mimicking your hormones like estrogen. Guys, weight loss resistance, it's a hormone problem. Guys, this weight loss markets to bring people to your practice because they don't get fatigue, they don't get, all the symptoms that you might be telling them. Hormone problems that I'm talking about, this goes beyond weight loss. This is why people are sick today. Hypothyroid, it's an epidemic. I'm giving the same solution. You have to fix the cell. You have to fix the receptors to the hormone. It's a cellular problem. We started this whole thing by saying inflammation is the cause of the majority of degenerative diseases today. Inflammation of the cell is why people are in a state of hormone resistance today. It's not my opinion. Obesogens. If you think you're going to lose weight by calories in versus calories out, think again. It doesn't work. It never does. Obesogens are chemicals that disrupts the function of hormones. That's what I'm talking about. We are exposed to chemicals that are causing a hormone revolution, dysregulation, all these unexplainable illnesses. If you are not addressing this in your practice, doctors, or how to address it, you are not going to get people well today. Whether you're just giving them supplements, vitamins and minerals to the naturopaths, MDs, if you're just giving them medications, you're going to fail. Chiropractors, if you're just giving adjustments, you're going to fail. You've got to understand this problem. There's the 5 big deadly obesogens. Learn about it. We teach at our seminars how to get rid of these things, and we teach them how to get rid of it at the cellular level. True cellular detox. It has to occur at the cell. I get passionate about it because we need more doctors preaching this and teaching this. So, Warren, I'm going to let you bring them to the next slide, but I want to end on this note because we actually didn't get to talk a lot about Martin Pall. Martin Pall is going to be teaching at my seminar, and I've been talking about cellular inflammation here. Martin Pall is a brilliant biochemist who is right now lecturing around the world in Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and he has literally redefined the 10th paradigm of medicine. And what I mean by that is right now there is 9 accepted paradigms in medicine. If you or your patients do not fit in with your symptoms in those 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up on a drug you don't need, or you're going to end up on some psychotropic drug and told it's all in your head. Martin Pall has literally given us answers to what is happening in the cell with inflammation and oxidative stress. The cycle is the no-ono cycle. It is the 10th paradigm of medicine. This gives us a true etiology for why people are getting so sick today. If you're in your practice and you do not understand how to address this no-ono cycle, yes, we teach how to get rid of chemical subluxation in our practice, but it's not enough to just get rid of the toxins. It's not enough to fix the inflammation at the cell. It's not enough to get the toxin out of the cell. And that is the key. However, you have to downregulate this cycle to get patients well today. It has transformed my practice. It has transformed thousands of doctors who have been to our seminars practice. And it is transforming thousands of people's lives on this planet. Guys, you need this information. This man is brilliant. We are grateful for him. Chiropractors on the line, listen to this. There's a receptor in your brain called an NMDA receptor, N-methyl deaspartate. Our adjustments affect this receptor. Unfortunately, most chiropractors, they don't even make the connection. These receptors are most abundant in the brain and upper cervical spine. Chemicals affect them, like MSG, etc. Many different chemicals can upregulate these receptors and cause inflammation. But you know what else does? Physical trauma, subluxation, misalignments. You have to understand, chiropractors, I'm talking to you now, how to downregulate these receptors in your practice. What the adjustment does to downregulate these receptors, because you can turn off, is part of this cycle, your adjustment, how to turn down this inflammation oxidative stress cycle. We're teaching that at our seminars. It is critical. Guys, I've just given you 3 keys, and that's not all of them. I mean, there's many things. I mean, I have my 5 R's of how we fix the cell, and I teach that. But I've just given you 3 things that if you do not understand in your practice, you're not going to get people well. And remember, if you don't get the results, and that's not congruent to your message, then it's going to affect you. It's going to cause burnout. It's going to affect your practice, how you communicate with your patients. If you get the results, you're going to grow a true waiting list practice. You have to understand these things to get the results today.
Dr. Pompa, we're so excited to have Dr. Martin Pall come to our Vegas seminar. I mean, when you can define what's wrong with someone and you can actually get to the root cause and what oxidative stress, instead of throwing an antioxidant at them, you know what specific antioxidants, but to transform someone's life like that and to be able to know in your heart that you know exactly what's going wrong with this person, the testing to do it, the protocols and solutions to get them well, and then just to be able to get back into your zone in your practice. It's like you'll be the Michael Jordan of a health center of the future. You'll be out there making a difference, slam dunking, filling solutions into your patients' world.
It gives you that authority. You can't teach somebody authority. I mean, when you know you can get the results like we do, then it transforms the way you communicate. You have to get results. That incongruency is the #1 reason why doctors are burnt out in practice. But it really solves the problem. I mean, results are the key, no doubt about it.
Real quick, guys, I want to thank you for being on this webinar, and this is one of the most important things I want to share with you today, is that we have numerous amazing speakers coming to our next seminar in Vegas, and we want you there. I'm going to be honest.
My friend Jordan Rubin's coming.
Yeah, Dr. Jordan Rubin, New York Times bestselling author. Probably one on the line here or on this webinar know him very well, but we also have Dr. Jack Tips. He's published over 30 books, spoken on Tony Robbins' stage, on health topics. And
Wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he's just an amazing communicator, has amazing knowledge, he's got wisdom. For first-time registrants, and if you look below right now, you're going to see a button that says register. That's going to take you to an event page where you can learn more about us, more about the seminars, and how to join us in Vegas. But for the first-time registrants, you're going to receive $1,685 in real value for being a first-time participant in our seminar in Vegas. And our seminars are way, way less than that, and we just want to bring you into this system, get you this information. Dr. Pompa's Public Weight Loss and Toxicity DVD and PowerPoint, that's how we grew that first $1 million practice,
Yeah,
Dr.
exactly.
Pompa, is that exact program. We did it for 2 years, and we went from $5,000 a month to $50,000 a month in just a matter of several months. So we're really excited about giving that to you, and our graduate resources where we have how we marketed and advertised, what we said, some of the protocols we use. Guys, we really look forward to you taking advantage of this. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you on one of our next webinars that we launch in the future.
Absolutely.